Yeah. You already know. Copper, copper. Young millionaires. The general. Okay, I wake up every day. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. Every day I'm getting paid. Man, this life is going great. I just wanna celebrate. I made it in and out of state. $1 million in the case. I got it hidden somewhere safe. I multiply all my millions and really I am extremely wealthy. I distributed my millions with my family. This is just the beginning. I purchased a Lamborghini, driving around the city. Believe me, you haven't seen me. Made it through all the struggle, defeated all of my rivals. I was never entitled, I had to fight for survival. Man, this life is amazing, it's crazy that where we made it. Now I'm living my dreams and I'm burning, just getting started. I made it through the struggle back when I was very worried. Now I'm chilling, get my condo, Lamborghinis and Bugatti. I know you in a hurry, but I promise don't be worried. When you see me in the club, I probably got enough to party. I'm a multi-millionaire, getting money everywhere. I ain't tripping on nobody, I just came to celebrate. Yeah, we got the party popping, got the general over here, throwing money in the air, cause we get it every day. I multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. Multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling.
Live from the grill with the Truth Podcast. We got Nikki G, we got Big John. Winston's out there. Before we start this podcast, guys, I kind of want to say one big thing about, have you done something amazing for somebody in this holiday season and the people that are in need, and how we can come out and just step up and help them out in any way we can. I'm going to turn it over to the Big John here.
Hey, how you doing? We're live at the grill on San Mateo, 3300 San Mateo. Let me go ahead and put up a little banner there. So if you want to order some carryout now, especially during this time of the pandemic, we really need to support our local business owners. I mean, it's easy to go, up to a franchise business and give them money, but that typically a lot of that profit goes out of state. And, when it comes time to, say, get your Little League sponsored, or you need money for something, a school project, it's the local businesses that always tend to give back. So make sure you want to come and support local here at the grill at San Mateo. It's New Mexico's only live fire grill. So they use mesquite wood to cook everything. It's really amazing. The phone number is 505-872-9772. And I'm going to play a little promo because it was really cool. Channel 4 came out, I think, 2 days ago or last week, and they came and shot a spot for it. I'm going to go ahead and show it now. And let me play it. And I'm only just going to play the first part. It's a really great segment that they do with local businesses. What they do is called Pay It Forward. Channel 4 comes into these local businesses. Like, for example, here they bought like 40 meals, and then they went and took it to a school of kids that needed it. So
especially restaurants. So that's why we are paying it forward twice tonight. The first, the local restaurant has become an Albuquerque icon. Also a group that's helping out kids stay on track with school. Colvin Schoen has more.
Inside the grill on San Mateo, you'll find owner Phil Chavez in the kitchen cooking up some of the best burgers and steaks around. But the restaurant itself is a different kind of experience. The walls are full of memorabilia, paying homage to the first family restaurants.
My father had a restaurant in Gallup for 30 years. It was called Grandpa's Grill. And he was Grandpa. And he had a ranch south of Gallup and had a lot of old antiques and wagons and stuff. So we filled the walls when we built that restaurant 35 years ago.
While the restaurant concept has withstood the test of time, it may be a different story with the pandemic.
It's been tough. Before the pandemic, we have 150 seats. We would fill this place up for lunch every day. Fridays and Saturdays, we're busy all day. I'm down about 70%.
Now it's empty chairs, shorter hours, and fewer workers on the payroll. KOB wanted to pay it forward. We placed an order for 40 burger meals to deliver to a deserving group in the city.
Anyway, we're surviving because of people like you. Pay it forward. It's fantastic. That helps us. That's going to help the other people. And we appreciate it and we thank you.
All right, so we're here at the Rio Grande.
And they go to a school. It's pretty amazing. And they take it to these kids but that's we wanted to definitely promote the grill here. This is where we do our podcast out of here. They built this amazing podcast here, this area right here. We have a studio, and it's really nice when people are here in the restaurant. They come up and they can see, and they join our group, and I'll go ahead and put information so that you can join us if you haven't already, to join the our Truth Podcast group, so that you never miss a show. Problem with business pages on Facebook, the algorithm may not put it across your timeline. So you may miss a show, but if you join the Truth Podcast Facebook group, then you never miss it. But if you can definitely come out and support Phil here at the grill, here on San Mateo, 3300 San Mateo, and it's 505-872-9772. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Jack, for us doing that for Phil.
Absolutely, guys. Come on, let's support the Philly, man.
Hey, one thing I want to too, and let me switch screens here. This is what I just did right now before, So he actually just posted this on his Facebook today. If you buy a $50 gift certificate, then you get an extra $10 bonus. So that's an extra 20% that you're actually getting for your money. So if you can, try to support local businesses. I know times are tough, but if you are going to spend money, try to help out with our local businesses. Thanks a lot.
Guess I'm gonna have to jump in heavy, Nikki G here. Watch out, ladies. We'll see what the gen's about to do here, guys. So I'm excited. I want to talk. You started off with this about what's going on with the businesses and stuff, and today was really inspired by I've been getting a lot of DMs these days, and a lot of more emails actually about just business and how do I approach my life. And so I started really thinking about this, and so I said today is going to be about approaching everything methodically, right? And I'm going to go through these subsets with you. And what I'm really going to focus on is really your career, your wealth building, fitness, and then we'll end with a little bit of life tips at the end, you know what I mean? And I think that this preparation for this time, because it's just a weird time, no matter what. We're wanting this 2020 to die and move on, and hopefully it doesn't follow us, but it feels like it's going to linger a little bit. You know what I mean? So let me kind of touch on my notes here real quick, guys. So I wanted to start off with kind of a real quick quote, right? And this is called career building, wealth building. If you spend 95% of your time in your 20s and if needed in your 30s working on your bank account, you can spend 95% of the rest of your life doing what you want. And so when I thought about that, I was really thinking, when people ask me these questions, in all the podcasts, in the interviews we've talked about, I was in the industry for 7 years mastering my craft. I didn't just jump out and say, I'm going to do this. I wasn't as talented as Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or any of these guys, programmers that are 12 years old. So, but there was always a very methodic approach. Every step of my life was a methodic approach, right? Down to high school. And so in high school, I was like either bodybuilding kickboxing or engineering is going to get me somewhere. So I'm going to run all three horses, right? And so I methodically thought about only those things and what was going to be the approach, and only spending that time. And when I read that quote, and I wanted to reiterate it here, is it's so freaking true, right? Because I pretty much inked my destiny in what I've done by the time I was 30 years old, by 29, right? But I was putting in that time. So what I want to do is take everybody step by step. It's just not a leap. It's not just a jump, right? It's kind of a little reminder. And so I'm going to kind of go down, and then we'll kind of talk across with each other and just kind of keep it flowing.
Absolutely.
So one of the individuals asked me, when's the right time to just jump out and start your business? So I'm going to break this out for you, because this is a very dangerous time. And I don't want to say that this is the time not to do anything, but you want to approach it very methodically. So let's not take ourselves in the time of the pandemic. I'm going to go based on everything that I learned when there wasn't a pandemic and what I did. And it still applies to this time, but you're going to have to add a little more, even more insurance policy to it, right? And so I said, this is what I wrote back to one of the individuals. It says, do not quit your job till your side income covers twice your monthly expenses. So what do you guys think that means? What does that mean to you, Nikki G?
It's funny because when I used to do entrepreneuring, that was like the biggest thing said, because a lot of people want to just get an opportunity and jump full blown into whatever it is. And when I sit back and now I can see it in different perspective, is Jim Rohn always says it, make your part-time make more than your full-time. And if you are going to jump into something without covering the bases, then you're more likely to drown. But if you cover, if you're very well aware of your expenses and everything that you need, you're not going to go and take a $40,000 job and jump and make, a couple thousand, 10,000 in hopes. It just won't happen, because the bills are always going to exist. They're always going to repeat. And if you're not in a financial set, I don't think it's like a good thing. And I know, because I've done it before, and now I know that if I'm going to make a step like that, I'm going to make sure that first all my overhead is covered, all my bills are covered, and what do I have left over that? And if it isn't double, then it's not a good move.
So I like you answered it that way. John, what do you think that means to you?
Oh, you definitely, things that she just touched on. You have to be able to say, like for me, I'd have to be able to make sure I could cover the mortgage each month, cover the utilities, cover, food costs before I get, you can't gamble. And then, 1 month you don't have anything come in, because then literally if you do have credit cards, whatever, you're literally putting your life on those, and you're hoping for that business to be profitable, which most aren't those first couple of years.
So I'm going to break that. So this is what we did. The reason I asked you guys to ask questions is I'm going to show you the question one more time, and then I'm going to deep dive, because those are what you should look for. But the question was specifically this. It says, your side income should cover twice your monthly expenses. So that was the actual what I was looking for. And I'm going to tell you why. Most people, you started talking about that. If you're trying to start a business in the same world that you're in, making $40,000 a year, and it doesn't cover twice your expenses, and you haven't done it for a good solid year, you're going to set yourself to fail. Because what you're talking about, John, is what you're saying is what I don't say that's a great approach in any business style. Jumping off the ledge and then thinking it's going to go. I've never taken that approach. And so what I want to tell people is, when they ask me these questions, that's a no. That's according to the Truth podcast. Don't do it. And so what I'm really wanting to touch is this. If you're working 40 hours a week, and then you're working your same craft at night, right? You got 8 hours, and you're still putting in another 8 hours. So it's 16 hours. You're still sleeping 8 hours. If that extra work that you're doing is not covering twice your expenses, you're not ready to jump to the next business. So so you take all your expenses, really simple. You take them all down, and that's even eating, gas, how you live today. You take those down, and if that craft of yours cannot generate twice that, you're not ready. So you either have to find a different craft, but you're going to make a huge mistake. So that's kind of what I want to go down on. Okay. So second thing, your rainy fund can cover 6 to 12 months of living expenses. So let's reiterate on top of that. So not only are we talking now that your side deal that you're doing that you're going to jump is generating twice your monthly expenses, but now you have 6 to 12 months saved. So you go down, you say, this is my mortgage, this is my electrical bill, what you talked about, and these are going to be goods for the business. When you add those up, you have to multiply what potentially the business is going to need and what you're going to need, and you're going to multiply that by 6 to 12 months. I personally went on 18 months. 18 months of a complete rainy fund, and that wasn't changing my lifestyle whatsoever. I was still going to Red Lobster on Fridays. It's still what I like to do, because then at that point you're going to start making concessions and you're going to set yourself up for failure. And that's kind of what you're talking about, Nikki. But that's lacking that real true business IQ and not knowing it or teaching, because business schools ain't teaching you that, right? They're not teaching you those fundamentals. It's kind of like we were talking about the boxing style. Remember that?
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I'm going to teach you not to get hit. Obviously, you're going to get hit, but we're going to minimize those hits, and we're going to focus on defense. Kind of, you know what I mean? So we're approaching this, kind of call it the Mayweather boxing of business, right? Mm-hmm. Being less of a casualty, being on the win. It's not going to be sexy. It might be a little boring, but it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, you're not going to, because I'm going to tell you right now, the word credit card just gives me heartburn as we talk about it. If you're putting something on a credit card, what does that mean? You're accumulating debt. So it wasn't your expenses, you're accumulating on top of that. So let's stay away from that crap. Okay?
I've never had a credit card. Just want to make that clear.
Well, I got a shitload of credit cards, but they're all paid every single month, because it's good to be on the radar if you start to do stuff. So the credit cards aren't evil. Mm-hmm. It's what we do with the credit cards are evil. So it's a necessity. So the way our systems are built, I always tell somebody, if someone gets you on a credit card, it's $150 a month, and you're generating $500, set that to $150. That's that, and then you pay it, right? You run it up to $150, you pay it. You run up to $150, you pay it, and so you're not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got an unlimited card. I'm not going to go unlimited because it's going to get that's going to be scary. You know what I'm trying to tell you? Mm-hmm. So those business IQs that I want you to take notes, and I hope the people that wrote me are out there listening and taking these notes down, right? Your business skills can make you as much more than your day job. Use this as your measurable. So this was kind of not if I'm doing my day job. Okay, so let me get that real specific. So there's people that want to get into something that's totally different than what they've done. So Jackson Technology, I say, you know what? I want to go and I want to open a burrito truck. And so my burrito truck, I'm going in on Saturdays and Sundays to all the games, to Yaffle. That burrito truck better be making double than what I'm making at work in order to take that risk, because you're having to put 2 to 3 times more of the work. That's the measurable. In my instance, I didn't change any profession. I stayed in networking and stayed exactly what I did, so there was no learning curve. But if you're running a burrito truck, I guarantee there's going to be a learning curve. And so kind of from you guys, have you guys done anything besides what you are good at that you actually were measured and try to ever make a business out of it or a side hustle? Have you guys, any of you guys done that, John?
I mean, I've done little things, just side hustle that makes extra cash here and there, but I've never ever had that sort of entrepreneurial spirit to say, well, this is what I'm going to jump in feet first and give up what I've already invested in. You know, now that I'm at the back end of my teaching career, I find myself more and more reluctant to take that because I'm close to retirement. So I know that in November 2023, not to count, but soon I'll be able to have that pension, and then I'll be able to make some more of those and diversify and be able to say, okay, I'm going to take this risk because I know I have the cheddar already covered.
And see, John, like, you know, if I was thinking as your business advisor, I would tell you absolutely the path. Do not jump on that. You're 2 years from the pension. That's like starting one race and not finishing it. Mm-hmm. Right? And I'm going to tell you right now, if I want to stay in the military, saving, I want to stay in the reserve, I look at my buddy, no matter how much money you're making, it's always good to have that extra, because then you have no worries, right? That's literally a multiple streams of income. Retirements and pension is a multiple stream of income. And how beautiful is it? Because you don't have to do shit for it. You already put the work in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, no, absolutely.
Nikki G, anything you want to, that you?
So I did do network marketing for quite some years. I started in 2009. I was in a pre-launch of a company that was like a healthy alternative energy drink. And I was very passionate about it because I had like a mild heart attack at 18 from drinking energy drinks. So it was like something that I was living proof that these are really bad for you. But I never shot the gun. I never quit my day job. I still worked at Fender. I still worked at all these companies. And I built this multi-level company where I opened up, Mexico, Trinidad. I was very successful in it. And I was getting paychecks for years and years and years out of it until the company got bought by another company. And then that kind of happened. But something in my intuition told me, don't do it. I had this job offer when I was at Fender, and it was a company called Mojo Video. And the CEO was trying to hire me on to be like a top PR and creative director in it. And he offered me the same amount of money, but a little bit more, but he couldn't offer me the health insurance or, whatever. And so since it wasn't a lateral move, I never took it. But I always ran across these opportunities. But for some reason, because I've always been in like a survival mode, I didn't take it. If something was double, I think I would have took it without a question. However, I did still do a lot of stuff on the side, but I never lost my mainstream of income. So I'm super grateful because I don't even think that company made it. And, imagine me leaving and doing whatever.
What's crazy as shit is this. You're not going to leave a Fender. You're not going to leave a Harmonix Technologies, I call it, that has a proven making profit every single year, no matter what it is, to make a lateral move with someone who's a startup. That is like the dumbest, and I'm glad you didn't do that. And so when people tell me that, like, I could do this, I can do that. You do that shit the way I did when I was out of engineering school and I took a risk with CA and I rolled up and said, this doesn't make sense, but I had nothing to lose, right? Worst case scenario, I go back to OCS school, come out as a lieutenant, become a captain, go up those ranks. So there was multiple things I could do. I could still go to Los Alamos National Labs, but I never would have just jumped, later on in time with the family or getting started rolling. And so that's what I'm talking about. And this is why I started off. It's so important. I guess today's podcast is really for those young people out there. And you can still do a few things later on in life, but you're not going to do what John said. You're not going to exactly what John said. He's not going to quit when he's about to retire to go follow some bullshit and it goes to hell. Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You're not going to take all your money, put it in the stock market, and you need that to pay your bills. That doesn't make any sense. But when you're 20 years old and you're a young person, you actually can take those risks and bounce back from them, but you're still not going to make a stupid lateral move. That doesn't make any sense, right? But if you're like, you know what, so I'm going to do this, and that's the kind of risk that I took, but it was calculated because I knew I had something else to fall back on. And so for my situation, I needed a summer job, and it turned out to be a freaking best decision in the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So those are the things I'm talking about. So all these people that were writing me, I would say, well, you guys are in your 20s. I knew that because I kind of peeped out your information. So this is why it's so important to put in that work now and have zero distractions. There's an old saying that I learned when I was studying with the master that says, you cannot serve multiple masters. And at the time, it didn't make sense to me, but a family could be a master, right? Your friend's partying could be a master. You cannot serve multiple masters at one time. And so those are the things that you have to make a decision, say, what brings me the best benefit for my buck? Into my life, what am I doing? Of working out even an hour a day, and you do that, well, you're going to do phenomenal things, right? Because you're setting up your body for a lifetime of being in shape, fighting disease. There's just so much from that one. So if you get to choose between hanging out with your buddies screwing off, smoking pot, or screwing off, go hit the weight room or get a hobby that's going to keep you out there very athletic and healthy to do what you want, right? We laughed our asses off. I brought courtesy of Cam. He brought us a dozen donuts last night. I brought him to the office. I slammed like 3 of them probably. But at the end of the day, I can eat 3 donuts because I'm still going to work out, continue and stuff. So people say, I made you laugh that day. I don't know if you remember the parking lot. It says, why do you work out? And I says, I work out to eat. You remember me talking about that?
I do.
So I want to be able to eat everything I want. And I'm not looking to be like, oh, I want to cut this out. If it's bad for me. And everything that goes back to that moderation, right?
Yep.
But if you got a big bank account and you're building that, that's how you can take those minor risks in business. I call it drinking the occasional Dr. Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
But now when you're doing stuff like, I'm going to do this. Look, I'll give you an example. When you're young, you're a little bit dumb, right? And your parents will be like, you can't afford that car. And you're like, I can afford that car. I want the Camaro Super Sport. And you get it, and you're working your ass off, and you're putting all your money into the car. I mean, that's me. I loved it, but I didn't have no kids. But when you go buy a set of tires, even in those days, in 97, 99, it was $900.
Yeah.
Because they were bi-directional tires, right? And they were soft and Z-rated, and they waste like shit, right? Then you got there and said, well, this is going to have to use this level of oil at the time synthetic, right? I think it wasn't that much. It was still like $4. But in those times, $4 was a shitload for a quart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then your insurance, and you're a little bit younger. Now you're screwed in today's society. Because even in my day, if you were even 21, you were still not going to pay the rates that you're paying now, not being 25. People don't realize when they make that decision, they think they're going to look cool, but they don't understand what it costs to maintain that car.
Yep.
Right? My maintenance bills on my vehicles a year are about $30,000.
Yeah.
$30,000. This is no bullshit.
Yeah.
I was laughing yesterday. I said, all 3 Lambos got to go to service, right? They're all service lights. I mean, a chance the pandemic was a pain in the ass. But even me, with the money that I generate, I like cycling them 1 every other year or 2 in that year, so I'm not paying $15,000 in one hit. You know what I'm trying to tell you?
Mm-hmm.
But those are the things I'm talking about. Is you have to understand doing everything methodically.
Mm-hmm.
That I really make a good methodical choice when I said I was going to buy this supercar, and can I afford it? What can I do? You know what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
Those are the big key factors that I really want listeners out there today. Do not jump out there and do something stupid. If you haven't methodically thought about it, front, forward, sideways, up and down, run all the scenarios, because you will make a mistake and it's going to be disastrous.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't want that for you. This is huge. Your determination cannot be swayed by anybody you know. And you're willing to sacrifice any luxuries for success. And this is specifically, right now we're talking about business. But if you're going to start a business and you're like, guess what? You know what? I want the big 6,000 square foot house or 4,000 square foot house. And I want the Super Sport Camaro. And I want this, and I want the business at the same time. You're probably going to fail. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And are you going to allow, you're going to sit with your family. You're going to get a lot of envious people. And they're going to say, you should have stayed in your job. Are you going to let them get in your head? One of the guys that wrote me is talking about he's starting, and his girlfriend saying, you can't do this. They told me his girlfriend's mom said this. And I'm like, holy shit, right? And so he's like going to give up. But when I thought about the business plan, I'm like, you're pretty much there. Right? For me to say that you're pretty much there, he's literally right there at the gold mine, but he's on the brink of giving up. And I'm glad he shared this business time with me so I could be like, you're crazy. You're there.
Whoa, we just lost internet. Hold on. I think we're all right still. Just my phone, I guess, was it.
Are we in?
No, we're still good.
Okay, good.
It'll be my camera that'll come down here, I guess.
So I said, you're still in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So don't lose that momentum. Let me tell you guys a funny story. I wrote a story for Muscle Media when I was 17 years old. And I remember I pissed a lot of people off. And so I wrote this story, and I talked about when I started bodybuilding that nobody believed in me. Not even my own family, right? And I remember going to my girlfriend. This is why this hits home. At the time, my high school girlfriend. And I said, I'm going to get into bodybuilding. And they looked at me like, oh, yeah, right. And I remember even telling the mom who used to support me a lot, was like, oh, like, but when I thought about it at the time, they actually didn't have the IQ for bodybuilding. I'm not saying the mental IQ, but the IQ for bodybuilding to be able to say, well, it's doable, or what's it going to bring, or that's cute or whatever. But the girl that I was dating actually took it as a negative and was like, well, that's like stupid. What are you going to gain from it? And I was all, but what I realized at that moment is like, I had the determination to prove you wrong. I don't give a crap. I don't need anybody. I don't need one fan, one cheerleader. I must have that Cleveland Brown attitude. I'm just going to go for it. Right. So most people don't have that. And so you really have to look within yourself. Are you going to go against the grain of society to get this goal? And are you going to be able to take the ass kickings? Emotional ass kickings.
It becomes, again, are you that resilient person that can withstand the criticism, withstand the noise, or do you succumb to, to people influencing you and it takes away your passion?
And I'm sure anybody listening out there, even if you're not in business, you've done something pretty big that you wanted to accomplish, and people weren't there for you. And then when you got there, like, oh, I knew you could do it. And I'm behind you now. Right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, Les Brown always says, never let someone's opinion become your reality. Do you mind if I tell you a little story about Les Brown? So Les Brown was a twin, and he was adopted to a family. And his brother was an athlete, and he was super, straight A student. And they always put Les Brown in, like slower learning classes. And I remember his teacher, they would put him in a regular class, and there was a teacher that was asking him to go up to the board to say something, to do the answer. And he's like, I can't, sir. And he goes, oh, why? He goes, because they told me I'm retarded, is what he said. And the teacher tells him, never let someone's opinion become your reality. So Les Brown wanted to work as a disc jockey. And so he would go knock on the door, and the people would be like, what do you want? And so finally the guy's like, you know what, wash the cars. And so then it started, and next thing you know, he was the janitor. Well, one day, one of the disc jockeys was super drunk, and Les Brown was there, and the owner called, and he's like, get him off the mic. And Les Brown's been practicing, he wanted to be a disc jockey. You really have to hear him say the story because his energy is amazing. So then the guy told him, take him off air. Well, instead, Les Brown was like, here's my chance. He got on the microphone. He's like, this is Les Brown, did this whole thing. Well, then he became one of the main disc jockeys because he loved him. Well, later in life, his brother was making like, 50, 60,000 a year. And Les Brown said, never let someone's opinion become your reality. He goes, I spoke for 1 hour and made $60,000. And it was so crazy because if he let people's perception of him define him, he would have never been the guy who's changes millions of lives today. But it just is my favorite story to say because we're always being judged. We're always being told. And even from my perspective, I was always told you shouldn't do this. Like my mom was trying to convince me not to go to my college, all this stuff. And I always went against the grain. And it was because I had to prove them that anything was possible,
So Nikki, do you think like in your situation with your family, do you think it was just a lack of like I call it, college IQ and didn't understand what the benefit was? Or do you think in some people they just want you to, like they want to keep you down because they don't want you to surpass them? I mean, that's the only two choices, right?
Yeah.
You got A or B. What was your thought with the people that have been around you?
I think the unknown, the fearfulest of the unknown, like I wasn't
lack of vision.
Yeah. I wasn't the only graduate. I mean, even my grandma graduated from college later in life. My mom did. I don't think it was that. I just think I was such a visionary that it wasn't in the surefront of what they were looking at. And I always just saw beyond everything. But
I guess my question is like with the people.
Okay.
Not you.
Yeah.
Like, do you think they were coming from a point of what I call it lack of college IQ? So for you guys out there listening, we're not talking about mental IQ in an overall. We're talking specifically on the subject that I say. So when I say college IQ, meaning you understand college in and out, what it could do for you, all that good stuff. Or is it a sense of like, no, I'm afraid they're going to surpass me and now they're going to be a better high-level human than I am and then make more money or be cooler or whatever. And so you think that with your family or even your friends, when you were saying this, when you've ever been in kind of like, you can't do this or that, what do you think they're coming from?
Gosh. I mean, I think a lot of it comes from, the saying that I would always hear growing up, it must be nice and never good for you. So I think it might be option B, the fearful of being surpassed. And I had a lot of times in my life, even in education, I had teachers and also other classmates challenge me because I was in a man-dominated field. And I remember for a capstone project, I had to really prove myself that I could design a damn bridge and I could do this. And like I got kicked out of a group that I was supposed to be. And if the school was still open, my bridge was actually on display that I did. I did a suspension bridge. But there was moments I'd go home where, I was like, maybe I'm not meant for this. And then I'm like, no, like I'm going to do it. So I think a lot of it came from this, being
option B.
Yeah.
Option B. Well,
At 22 years as a teacher, I've seen plenty of, and I put parents in quotes because parents that don't want to see their kids be more successful than them.
So John, give me a percentage.
I've seen that. Not too many. It's more those outliers of kids that you can see that they have intelligence and you can see that there's a light there that the parents have kept the bulb unscrewed.
So would you say it's like 10%, 5%?
It's somewhere in there,
Okay.
But it's a sad, but there are some, and then that's why there's a lot of people that shouldn't be parents,
Right.
Right. and
They lack-
and I know and I can say the one place from an entrepreneur spirit that I took the risk was with my kids was when they were young and the method that I wanted them. And I'm writing a book about it. It's called 17, 18, 19, but it's about taking this philosophy of making your kids older, so there are kids that graduate from high school at the age of 17, 18, or 19. And that's a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Physical, emotionally, mentally, maturity, and luckily, and it's crazy because I know when my son was in the third grade, he was only 3 years old, my oldest, and I had an 18-month-old at the time too. I sat at a table with kindergarten teachers and I picked their brain, what do you want kids to come to kindergarten knowing? And they're like this and this and this and that. And at the end of the day, they're like, just make them older. They go, boys that are older in kindergarten, they do better. And I'm like, so literally that got my wheels turning and saying, well, how can I game the system so that I make sure my kids are as old as possible?
So they wanted mental maturity, huh?
Oh yeah.
So it's mental maturity.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. It's crazy, John. So, since I'm born in September, they don't allow you. My mom was like, I'm not going to go and send them to school early. So then I'd have been graduating at 17. So you're older, but then that mental maturity actually sets you up later to be a lot more successful. And so I've always thought about that. You will never see it when you're in 6th grade or all that, but when you start getting to like 9th grade, it's a whole different animal, right? And so I've really seen that. And I truly think that mental maturity, I'm with John on that one. Don't be sending your kids too early to school or anything because you're setting them up to fail. They're literally fighting against the grain because it's kind of like low dog years, right? When you got puppies, 3 months away from each other, 4 months is a huge delta.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now it's not even. So you're playing someone delta, they mature better. They could be stronger even if you're in playing in the field and stuff. It's a pain in the ass. So not to get off the subject, but that's definitely I'm with that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna retouch back because I got a message, but about my college. My mom did want me to go to college, but she was so mad about like the pricing. Yeah, the price of the college.
Yeah.
But I think at the end, my mom might have won that argument because the school got shut down for overpricing and I can't even access my bachelor's transcripts or anything like that. But my mom was very supportive of me.
So in the end, she was right.
At the end, she was right. And I have to admit that. But at the same time, ITT Tech set me up for success, man. I've had a really good career. So it's a very fine line for me because I left there ready. I could crush in any job interview I've ever taken. And this is a true story I've gotten. And a lot of it drove from the support system that I had at that school.
ITT Tech was freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now.
A lot of money.
I wrote the national curriculum for ITT Tech and Telcom. We were pumping out literally network engineers in 18 months versus 4 years, 6 years stupidity. Yeah. Who knows what went on in that whole thing? I'm sure there was probably some bullshit. But I'm going to tell you right now, you get the wrong politicians on you and it doesn't quite make the system, you're going to get shut down. This is going to touch you on my next subset. It kind of touches that, right? So ITT Tech became super successful all of a sudden. So you didn't ever find kids that didn't have jobs.
But even today, have you seen that Google's coming up with a program to almost cut out college to where literally you can take Google courses and it prepares you to work for at Google.
It's the best way, John.
You know,
Yeah.
I struggle with that because becoming a history teacher, you want kids to be well-rounded when it comes to math. But see, I think that's what high school is supposed to serve, that purpose.
Yes.
You know, post-secondary, then I think you should be able to specialize. You know, so I'm all for that. I'm all for that.
Someone touched something for you. You'll like this. Let's go back to the European way of learning. So in Europe, you're literally going, let's take like Germany, for example, right?
Yeah.
Pumping out the most engineers than anybody in the world. So in high school, you're already technically in your associates. They call it apprenticeship, right?
Mhm.
And then 2 years, I think it's 18 months or 14 months, I can't remember, after out of high school, you're working with the engineering group and you're learning exactly what you're learning about specifically. If it's automotive engineer, safety, if it's steel, whatever, and they're pumping out the most elite engineers. So that method was always in place. It's when we created the education world for a for-profit. You know what's crazy is this, and I'm like, people are going to be all pissed off at this because I'm jumping off the subject here, but I've really, as more and more that I think about life, education and healthcare cannot be for profit. It doesn't work.
I'm rubbing off on you.
Yeah, that's what John gave it to me.
rubbing off on you,
Yeah,
Jack.
you know what I'm trying to say? But it
It's
just
true, though.
can't because the measurable is really not there.
There are some things that shouldn't be for profit, like the t-shirts. Fuck, there should be 1,000 people being hungry fucking to design something better, something that, you know, tennis shoes, cell phones, computers. There should be competition.
Yes.
When there's a place where there's a natural monopoly, there shouldn't be
No,
there shouldn't be
it's
for
a-
profit.
It's an actual need.
Oh no,
Right.
yeah, because you and that's when hopefully what comes out of this pandemic is everybody realize, you know what, we need better healthcare. We need more hospitals. We need more nurses. We need to pay them highly, to our law enforcement, to our firefighters, to our teachers. There are certain things that we need in our society that we all got to pitch in. Now, there's other
Hands
things.
down. But I'm going to tell you something, John. Taking it from a guy who's made multi-millions,
Okay.
I'm going to tell you right now that I'm going to pay towards the two just specifically. That's not even add the law enforcement and all that
Oh,
kind of stuff. I'm just going to say teachers
Education and
and healthcare.
Mhm.
Because if you focus on that, if you said, I'm going to go a guaranteed portion of my taxes to that, so that if Phil's not shutting his business down because someone gets COVID, there should be a bed open, which there is beds, but it's a shit show. That's for another time.
yeah,
Then at the end of the day, then you should have all the beds waiting and taxes and paying for nurses where they're playing Monopoly. So that if the situation hits, it's there and so they can take care of people.
absolutely.
Then you can even do preventive maintenance because if you're sitting there playing Monopoly, then you can say, okay, well, let's get these people in there in vans. And so, like, I don't got the fix, but definitely the more I've thought about it as a CEO, is like those two things need to
That's
be.
always perplexed me why the business industry doesn't run with that football. Because to me, get that headache out of your hair of providing healthcare for your employees and being a small fish in this huge ocean
Absolutely.
of competition as to where everybody pitches into a pile and businesses don't even have to deal with that. You know, I've always been dumbfounded by the idea of why businesses don't take that, and the business community doesn't say, you know what, let's get rid of this healthcare bullshit and stop having to deal with it, and it be a headache, and it be financially not intelligent.
Yeah, 'cause it's true.
You end up overpaying for your employees' healthcare.
Absolutely.
As to where when they're, and that's what Bernie Sanders wants is you're able to buy into a government program which only has like 2% overhead because there's no profit margins. There's no CEO that needs a private jet. There's no stockholders that they're emboldened to. All there is care.
Yeah. Which
So
makes sense.
I love it. I love it.
So, got out the side swag
I'm
there.
sorry.
I'm sorry, you know what I mean? No one get mad. I keep going to the dark side. I'm not. I swear. I'm just seeing, as they say, with time comes wisdom. We talked about it last podcast, right?
So Natalie Chavez, they aim to keep homeostasis, negative or positive. It's difficult for the independent elements to allow different perspectives. So they create negative feedback loops, great comments in overcoming folks who minimize the change throughout your own resiliency. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's crazy. So we talked about what the stuff that I talked just for business. I want to bring us back. If you have done those things that I said, right, those building blocks, you have now methodically created a foundation for a successful business. if you follow those things I told you. So, guys, I can't answer any more emails. You need to listen to this podcast. These are the fundamentals. I literally gave you the fundamentals right there, free, for the success. Right there.
And what's from a father, you know, and I'm an educator. I'm nowhere. I'm not an entrepreneur. I've worked for the public, but I look at my oldest son right now, and he's living his 20s the way you describe it. He already has a stock portfolio. He's not out drinking like I was in my 20s.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
You know, I remember I'd be like, and this is back in '92. You know, I'd make $200 bartending, but then I'd drink $200 that night.
Right.
You know,
right.
And it was awesome and it was fun, but I have nothing to show for my 20s.
You know what I call that? Social investing.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end of the day, you're gonna, because these guys are awesome, right? They got a shitload of friends. I freak out, right? They got a shitload of friends.
A shit show, yeah.
But it's really, you know, at the end of the day, it's like you gotta, and that's what I love to hear. And it's like, I really believe the universe kind of equalizes itself, right? It comes back and really brings that piece to it of, like we were saying, your son.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He's like, that's why I was just talking to him this afternoon. And I'm like, how's your stocks doing? He's like, man, I'm up. And you know, he literally got some money in. He got laid off because he's a waiter now during COVID, and he was making great money, but he's an engineering student. And since he got his unemployment money, he literally invested into the stock market. And last week, it was his first week off of UNM. He spent 7 days installing that artificial turf in wealthy people's homes. You know, so he hustles, and that was just never me. And what's crazy is that I'm not telling him to do it. I think he just sees, well, look at my dad, what a fuck up. You know, I don't want to definitely follow his course. And that's what I've always been honest with my kids, and always never ever said, well, don't do this or don't do that, or, you know, do it. You know, I would just tell him, hey, this is what I did, and I wouldn't go do it that way. And literally, thankfully, he's gone that route. And so is my middle son too. You know, he I forget what he invested in Cinemark or something like that. And he made in a week, he made like $500 because he just watched the stock market and he was investing money. And that was never me in my 20s. And what my friends and we lament back and we look and say, God, if we'd have just invested in a bar instead of drinking the bar.
Yeah, no, it's true. You knew the craft, right?
Yeah.
You and your buddies know the craft. I mean, these guys know the bartending business. Ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. You can actually make that hobby where it's making you money. That's what I've always talked about. But it's about putting that work in your 20s. I promise you. You put that in. I sit there and I think about it all my time. And even when Michael talks about this and he says, you were so ahead of it. But I literally started when I was like 17 years old. No bullshit. Like I wasn't afraid. I had Jack Inc. I was doing construction. I wasn't afraid of like doing minor landscaping, cement jobs, this and that. I just knew the game of entrepreneurship. But I was laying those blocks all the single days, right?
Yeah.
There was no dream catching. I didn't give a shit. I wasn't looking over there. I just looked at what was in front of me 24/7. What's in front of me and what can I get done?
Yeah.
Right?
I'm having I don't know what it is.
It's like a euphoric feeling. It looks like Nikki got high.
I hear it. I'm gonna be real. Okay. So I never really thought about this. And I started drafting since I was 14, went to college. I graduated my associates at 20, got my bachelor's by the time I was 23, worked my ass off my 20s. And then now I'm 33 and I'm not working in that field. And it's like, did I jump the gun? Like, you know, in my mind. And then I look back and I have the opportunity. I have plenty of job offers. But why did I invest all that time just to take a break? Because it's really what it was. You know what I mean? I needed to like revamp, but I just had to like, man, I'd be sitting.
But this is crazy, Nikki. It's like kind of like what you and John are saying. So the reason you're sitting here on the Truth Podcast and you have those opportunities is not to sugarcoat the shit and let people know that, you know what, you're doing good. You can do this and you might bounce it. But it's better just to go balls to the wall the whole way through 10 years. So then you're sitting like me. I'm still screwing off with you, but I don't have to do this stuff as much because it's not there. And that's what I'm talking about. And this is when I was talking with these individuals. Most of the guys writing me are in this get rich quick bullshit. And I'm like, I have no fucking idea. If you got that figured out, please call me. Please send me and I'm going to come in. You know, like what we were talking about when you said the network marketing. Don't get mad at me, but I remember people would tell me that. I says, well, do you have a CRS? No. Do you have an EIN? No. Do you have a city license? You're in a fucking business. You're in a fucking Ponzi scheme, right? And everyone that I've known in a Ponzi scheme, and I'm saying, and every single person that was killing it like you at the top, I'm like, show me something that business gave you. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now. You drive outside Harmonics right now, Nicky will tell you, you'll see a red semi truck. Harmonics Technologies bought that sucker, right? Little red. You see all that shit out there? I mean, you see it? That's what I'm talking about. So I always tell people, don't bullshit yourself. Don't bullshit yourself. Because if you bullshit yourself, you might actually bullshit others, and then you're all in a bullshit together.
Yeah.
And I love what you said, John. Like, you know, most dads, and that was what my dad told me. He says, you know what, son? I wasn't outgoing. I had a lot of opportunity, but I was afraid. And I could have been probably a director at the labs, but I was just too timid. Yeah. Instead of saying, no, that's not the one for me.
He didn't bullshit you.
Yeah, I just wanted to be.
I think too many parents, because it's easier to bullshit your kids and tell them these little pixie land, you know, like, oh, you know, don't do that. Don't do it, you know, because versus I know that's my greatest gift is to my kids to have them learn from me, because I don't bullshit them.
And your students.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
And imagine how many students, right?
No doubt.
I'm sure you're not bullshitting the students. So like, guess what, guys? You know,
no, I don't bullshit them either. You know, and Carson could attest if you were here, because I've never ever. And is that tough for people to deal with? There's a lot of parents that don't like me because of that. You know, because they're like, "Oh, you let your kids do that?" I'm like, "Yeah," because this is their two things that they have to be for me: get great grades and don't be a dick. Outside of that, we can always figure shit out.
Kindness, holy shit.
Yeah.
We touched on that like I don't know how many podcasts ago, right?
Yeah.
But it's that kind element. It doesn't matter how smart you are, but you're the biggest condescending asshole out there. It doesn't matter how smart. It's going to overshadow you.
Yeah.
Right? You're super successful and you're an asshole. It's going to overshadow you.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
You know, take that moment of kindness. That's one thing I could tell you that, you know, my street credibility out there is they say, you know what? I'm always kind. I try to be as kind as I possibly can with people. I take you got 5 seconds for everybody. You know, we were rolling around the Lambos this weekend, and there's this little homeless dude and he's giving us a thumbs up, and I give him the thumbs up, and I rolled down the window, and he crossed across, and I gave him $10, and I'm like, God bless you. I said, Merry Christmas. And he's totally freaked out. He's freaked out. Doing the Lambos like, Merry Christmas. And at the end of the day, it's just showing you that contact, humanizing that situation, right? In the days of before COVID and all this bullshit, I would just shake those guys' hands. And you should freak people out, right? Because I would just shake your hand. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm talking about is, you know, you lay those things, but this is gonna roll into my next thing, right? And then you got to be prepared for this. So you got the building blocks, okay? You got the foundation. Now, drum roll. Do you really want to go into business? Because I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. And no matter what level, watch it. I'm gonna tell you this, okay? People will view the working man as honorable, but a lot of people view the business owners as evil. But it's so fucking crazy. Without the businessman, there'd be no working man.
Yeah.
And without the working man,
there'd be no businessman.
Yep. Oh no, it's almost what she says. It's a homeostasis that you depend upon each other. You do. And then there's the other factor of the customer too, because you're all codependent upon each other. And if one is evil, then nothing works.
But I'm talking how they lay you out today.
Oh yeah.
The views of today is the stupidest shit, right? It's like we got to change this views of like, no, without this, it's all this. And then I'm gonna tell you something. Shopping is fun and glorified as hell. Spend all your money, get on credit cards. It's sexy. But if you're selling stuff, it's sleazy. We're not talking about selling yourself. We're talking about selling product. Think about that. Oh, well, how are salesmen depicted? Oh, they're sleazy, the salesman. Well, without the salesman, you wouldn't get the shit because they're learning the product.
Yeah.
But do you understand what I'm trying to say? The psychologic behind that. The whole psychology of it is crazy. Now watch this. Buying a home is great. But renting homes to people, now you're evil. You're still providing the home. How crazy is that?
Because it's just like anything. It's okay. So police, some people look at them in a negative light because there's a few bad apples. Landlords can create that same scenario too. They never, they don't have hot water. The roof leaks. Something's broken and they never fix it. And what they do is they poison the punch bowl for everybody else, right? Just like a bad teacher. You get a bad teacher or a teacher that that's doing something with a kid or what. Now every teacher is bad, and unfortunately, that's a sad part of our society is people get lumped into those things.
That's why you got to rent from TG&W agency, ladies out there, because you rent from TG&W agency. I promise you, your asset's going to be protected, right? And you're not going to be the tenant that's with no running water.
Yeah.
Because you know what, you go with the sleazy guys, you're going to get the sleazy outcome, right?
Yeah. But I mean, do you agree that there's that?
Oh, I agree with it.
That,
A
and then
slumlord.
or it's no different than teachers or firefighters or any of these other things that are looked on in a negative light because there's a few bad apples that ruin the whole bushel, so.
It's a crazy
Because and now, especially during the pandemic, those people, and that's where government needs to step in and says, okay, you know what? Okay, we're going to put a freeze on foreclosures. We're going to make sure that those landlords that are helping their tenants with,
absolutely
putting their rent on the back end or whatever, make sure that they're not getting foreclosed on. The tenants, and that's what other countries have figured out how to help people, help everybody.
But why are we in our country, we're sending all this money overseas, but the people here are falling apart?
I agree.
Right.
Well, look at this. Look at this 900 billion. I mean, all the money that's going to all these different foreign, because you goes back to the Roman days. You have this empire that it's like a bunch of leeches that are just sucking on you that you have to feed the empire. And that's.
I'm going to give you some facts. I'm not going to name the politicians, okay, but I'm going to name some facts. Okay. Domestic funding, Kennedy Center, $26,400,000, right? Smithsonian, $1 billion. National Art Gallery.
Is this the federal budget?
$154,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
National Art and Humanities, $157 million, right? West Wilson Center, $14 million. Okay, foreign countries, Egypt, we're giving them $1,300,000,000. Sudan, $700 million. We're giving Ukraine $453 million. Israel, $500 million. Nepal, $130 million. Burma, $135 million. Cambodia, $85,500,000. Pakistan, $25 million. Right? Asia RA, $1,400,000,000. American people, guess what you're getting? You're getting $600.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know.
So let me tell you something about. There's something called beyond. There's the business IQ and there's the political IQ. So this is where I'm saying. You know what's crazy? If you've never made payroll, they should make it a prerequisite that you can't be a politician.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if you've never made payroll, you can't be a politician. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, as a CEO, I'm not dumping that out there. The only one that I'm probably going to spend some money on, and it's going to be Israel, because that is our eye into the Middle East. You know what I'm trying to say? And where there's a lot of technology and stuff. But are you kidding me? When you're sending over almost $500 million to Ukraine, right? Which is literally elected to be part of Russia, it doesn't make any sense to me. We just got attacked by Russia. Solar Winds just got attacked by Russia and caused so many issues across everything. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's again, it's from a geopolitical standpoint, it's feed the beast, and that's what you go back, you figure our dominance in the world isn't even 100 years old. Okay. After World War I, we still weren't the dominant world power. Post World War II, we were. And that's where it become this weight that's on our shoulder. And now we have military bases in 150 different locations. We have financial interests in all these hundreds of countries. And that's where that money is going to, yes, so from that, so it's, which do you want to take? Do you want to become just this isolationist country that just only wants to focus on itself? Or do you want to become an empire? Because there's benefits to an empire, because then you get to take everybody else's toys. You know,
There's benefit, but at the other day,
it's
if
a leech.
if you give too much of what the resource,
It's a cancer.
yeah, then it doesn't matter.
But President Eisenhower in the 40s, he warned about this because you were reading all those millions of dollars that we spend. Our defense budget is $671 billion a year. And this is what and it's crazy because it's been about, I remember when I first used to tell the story, it had only been a couple of years that I ever thought about the differences between a million, billion, and a trillion. Okay. So, and my sons always make fun of when I count these imaginary dollars, you know, so if I sit there and I count out $1 a second, okay, it takes me 11 days to count out $1 million.
Yeah.
Okay. For me to count out so that's a million. For me to count out $1 billion, it's 30 years. You can envision 11 days, right?
Yeah.
Can you think how big a 30 years is? Okay.
Crazy.
Okay. So now I count out $1 trillion. And right now our government, I think, is in debt like $21 trillion or $22 trillion. It takes me 31,000 years. Those 3 zeros. Yep. And I remember I listened to this guy on the radio. His name's Tom Hartman, and he made me think of it in that perspective. And I was like, oh. So, you know, you talk about that jump from saving $100,000 to way harder than it is to saving $1 million. You know, imagine how tough is it to making you to get to $1 billion.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I'm saying is it's only 3 number places,
Yep.
but exponentially it's just amazing. You know how much, and the potential that 340 million people can give to a government and what we can do with it, you know? So, and that's exactly why, and that's what's so encouraging is that you have young people for the first time. The last 2 elections have outvoted old people. And that's huge.
Huge.
Because young people want to push ourselves into a different direction, you know, and they want universal health care and they want education. Okay. You know, so try not to get on the tangent there.
And guess what I'm going to lay this without? So I'm going to tell you what, I saw this. I thought this is beautiful. I want to end this podcast with this. I call it the 6 ethics of life. Okay. Before you pray, believe. Before you spend, earn. Before you write, think. Before you quit, make sure you tried your damnedest. Before you die, live. You do those 5 things right there, you've done it.
I love that.
So, guys, thanks for joining us here at the grill. Let's come out and support Phil and the grill out here. Let's just come out and support those local businesses. I mean, I'm just bad at doing what you just said, John, supporting the franchises in life because it's an easy button. But let's come out and support these guys, and let's do this. Let's just do this and this Christmas season and help your neighbors. You know what I mean? It's so awesome. What you guys didn't got to see the video in Arizona. We were really jealous of Jason and Ayala was able to do in Arizona and hand out Los Ojos. Hand out the baskets. They did the basket handing, followed all the CDC guidelines. I was sad that we weren't able to do them in New Mexico, but we had to we did the cards, and that was great. But I like that personal touch, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I just like seeing those toys, and it's just who I am.
Oh no, it changes you being able to look in people's eyes and go into their homes. Yeah. It's heavy duty.
Yeah,
heavy duty.
Up north in Espanol, Monica Lovato, Fernando, Ralph, they all did a Secret Santa, a bunch of companies, and they handed out gifts to the youth, and it got picked up by the news. But that's like, it's huge when it's different when it's just a piece of paper, but when it's like that actual interaction, you know.
I know when you look into their soul and you look into their heart.
And I saw a lot of messages of kids that didn't get gifts, and I saw that people were figuring out how to get those families gifts, like on Duran Street and stuff like that. So I just had to shout them out because what they did was incredible.
Yep. Mental awareness also. I know Christmas is on Friday, but make sure you reach out to your loved ones, especially if you can't see them this year. You know, still try to maintain social distance. You know, our numbers have dropped massively. We're up at like 3,600. We're down to 800 positive. You know, so we're moving in the right direction because I think, you know, that's what I have pride in our state is for the most part, I think 95% of us do things for other people. you know,
Absolutely.
and we're not as selfish as
No,
other states are.
no.
So, you know, we have a lot of inadequacies and a lot of negative things but I think there's a lot of corazon that takes place in the state. So,
True statement. All right, guys, we're out.
right.
Merry
Have a
Christmas
good
to you
one.
guys.
Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next week.
I want you to send me what you just wrote.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Harmonix Technologies, your New Mexico business IT solution. With incredible products that will fit your needs both big and small, and unmatched service, it's your vision delivered. Learn how we can help your business roar into action today. Harmonix Technologies, your New Mexico business IT solution.